Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Final Trade. I posted a video a couple days ago about the great performance of Innistrad Remastered Collector Box pre-sales, and I got an interesting comment on it, and I'm not here to trash on the dude who left the comment. I don't know the gentleman who left it, but it's more on the content of the comment and the kind of thought that it portrays and what it means. Okay. And so someone left a comment on the video and he said, "So we're ignoring the fact that the cards just aren't that good for the price point. I know I'm not." Okay. So the point of the video and the sales data was that Innistrad Remastered collector boxes up to 7 days minus release are outselling both Dominaria Remastered and Ravnica Remastered collector boxes at the same point in time combined. They're selling incredibly. And the gentleman kind of, I would attribute a frustrated tone to it, even though it's just words written on a website. But he says, "So we're ignoring the fact that the cards just aren't that good." Yes. Yes, we are. And there's a couple reasons for this. The first is WotC knows how to sell collector boxes. They finally figured it out. And from the beginning of 2023 until today, 2 entire years now, they have an almost unbroken streak of success selling collector boxes. And that means engineering the boxes in terms of the cards that go in them and controlling the distribution and the print run numbers so that they don't oversaturate the market. They have completely turned that ship around 2 years ago. And if you want to bet against collector boxes today, you are going out on a limb. Now, in the long run, this means that at some point I'm going to get burned. I'm going to still be buying the collector boxes, pre-ordering them, and they're going to release a trash collector box. And at first, I'm going to just kind of throw my hands up and say, it was bound that they would mess one up from time to time, just like Murderers and Outlaws. And then they're going to do it on the next expansion also. I'm going to say, hey, we're unlucky. Oh, well. And then the third time they do it, I'm going to say, it looks like they're screwing things up. Maybe we should pull back the pre-orders, and I'll think a lot about what I want to do. But until that happens, you have to keep betting on them because it's the better bet. And the very fact that the pre-orders are outselling the previous two remastered set pre-orders combined is a pretty good indication that the market wants this box. And so the second reason that this comment kind of falls flat for me is in the 4 years I've been here in the TCG investing market, every single expansion of every game that I follow has been labeled weak. It's been labeled underpowered, overpriced, not a good value, terrible, it's going to do awful, the market doesn't want this, the game's creator is missing the point, the pools are too easy, the art sucks, everything. Every detracting comment you can imagine, I have seen for every expansion of every game that I follow in the last 4 years. And yet, here we are. Here we are where the collector boxes are doing amazing. Pokemon is doing unbelievable. Flesh and Blood is still marching along, 15, 16, 17 expansions now? And even the terrible Printed to Oblivion Magic collector boxes from the 21 and 22 era are finally catching wind. When Kaldheim collector boxes have come up 50% in the last year, that the market is healing and things are getting better. And that all the detractive comments don't really matter. Kaldheim is the best example of it. Kaldheim collector boxes are really probably the beginning of what I would call the second era of collector boxes. There was that first era before them, from Throne of Eldraine through, Zendikar Rising, where WotC didn't really understand what it was doing with collector boxes, and it was underprinting them, and that was driving real scarcity and value. And there were some okay chase cards in some of those boxes. But for the most part, they were just flashy. That was helping them sell. It was the beginning of the flashy era, and the print runs weren't very high. And then you got to Kaldheim, and you had the beginning of 2021, you had WotC stomping on the gas pedal of print runs. And you still did not have great engineered value in those boxes. And Kaldheim has taken 4 years to really get somewhere. It's come up 50% in the last year. But it doesn't matter that it is the worst value of a collector box ever made. It still came up 50% in the last year. And why did it do that? It did it because fundamentally there was a mismatch between the supply and the demand. And so it doesn't matter if you believe that the cards in Innistrad Remastered just aren't good for the price, like this gentleman says. It does not matter. The only thing that matters is if there is a mismatch between the supply and the demand. And so far, in the pre-sales period for Innistrad Remastered, there is an incredible mismatch where the market prices have never seen anything close to the wholesale price of that product. That product came onto the market $60 or $70 above wholesale, and it's never looked back. It's only gone up since then. And so, up till now, the demand is way higher than the supply. And it'll probably hold that way, because again, the reality is WotC has gotten print run numbers under control in the last 2 years. It's gotten distribution waves under control, and it's gotten box value under control. And so bet against it at your own peril. It doesn't really matter that this is yet another in the unlimited line of sets that is labeled weak and underpowered and overpriced and bad value and awful art and on and on and on and on. The market only cares about the fundamental mismatch between supply and demand and how that translates into the most recent sale price. That's all that matters. And, that dovetails into something else I talk about a lot, which is not letting the short-term noise affect you too much. The reality is most of us are investors, whether it's in the stock market or real estate or crypto or TCG or whatever. We're investors here for the long term because we're looking out on the long timeline to securing retirement, securing ourselves financially in old age so that we're not destitute on the street or we're not having to go hat in hand to our children's house and live with them in our old age. That's why we're here. And so we're not here for the short timeline stuff that so typically populates the news. Short timeline things like, well, the cards are underpowered. Kaldheim collector boxes had terribly underpowered cards. No chase value, no serialization, and huge print runs. And yet here we are, where in the last 12 months they've come up in price 50%. Printed to oblivion, doesn't last forever, and opinions about the power of the cards, the worthiness of the set, the collectability, all the rest of it, ultimately those don't matter out past a couple months' time at the most. We had the incident 5-6 months ago now where Jeweled Lotus got banned and the entire Commander Rules Committee fell apart. Nobody even mentions that anymore. Had you even remembered that happened until I just mentioned it? Probably not. It was short-term noise in terms of what we're doing here on Final Trade and in the wider TCG investment community. And most of the time, the short-term noisy news does not matter. It falls off the radar very, very quickly. And I promise once Innistrad Remastered boxes start hitting people's hands, they start opening them, they start posting videos of it, people start pulling copies of the serialized card, and it's one card that's getting serialized in the set. Thank God WotC is doing with serialized cards what I said they should do a year ago when I was making videos about how there were too many serialized cards. Thank God they pulled back on that so that the serialized cards will hold more value in the future. But when those cards start getting pulled and they start getting sold on TCG Player for, who knows, $5,000, $6,000, $8,000, yeah, you can laugh. Go look at what the movie poster serialized cards from Lord of the Rings Special Edition are selling for. Multiple thousands of dollars. And there are a bunch of them in those boxes. This expansion has one serialized card. It's going to be a high 4-figure card. And that's going to drive the price of the box. So it doesn't really matter that Well, the cards in the set are weak. Oh, it's got that Dryad that didn't even come in an Innistrad set to start with. Oh, it's got a bunch of cards that aren't from Innistrad blocks. It does not matter. All that matters is the mismatch between supply and demand. And if it turns out that that one serialized card and probably 500 copies of it start selling for $8,000-$10,000, everyone's going to be buying these boxes, regardless of how bad the rest of the cards are. It's exactly what we've seen drive the price of Lord of the Rings Special Edition. I wish there was a simple way to sort information between important and unimportant. And if there was a repeatable, objective way to do that that was reliable, then I would never have to make another bad investment decision again. You know, I would never buy the Battle Styles boxes and then sit on them for 4 years waiting for them to catch a wind and start rising in the market. I would only be buying the Evolving Skies and the Paldea Evolved and things like that. But there isn't. And so you have to construct your own mental models, your own long-term theses, your own ideas of how you're going to handle investing, of the kind of ideas that have worked out for you in the past and that you have a reason to expect will continue working out for you in the future. And definitely when it comes to TCG investing, one of the things that I've learned over these 4 years is that when people complain that the set is underpowered, the art is ugly, the pools are too easy, and all of those other complaints, none of those matter. And there have been set after set after set where people have said the exact same thing, and the boxes have doubled, tripled, quadrupled. I was looking at some of my Pokemon stuff earlier today. It's up 500%, some of the things. And yet people had nothing but terrible things to say about Sword and Shield era in its own time. And yet here we are. And in 6 months, we'll be looking at our Innistrad remastered boxes, and you know, if the serialized card works out the way I described that it might work out, and we're looking at copies of it rarely selling for $8,000, $10,000, $12,000, then those Innistrad remastered boxes are going to be up over $1,000 at that point. It's a big gamble. And maybe WotC engineered it correctly. Maybe they chose the right card. Maybe they chose the right serialization quantity. Maybe they chose the right print run so that the cards are hard to get, but not too high of a print run that there are too many boxes out there. Maybe they balanced it all right, and these are $1,000 boxes in 6 months. Let me know what you think, guys. Thanks to everyone who makes this content possible, especially my very generous supporters on Patreon. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade.